you're doing everything they told you to do. You visualize every morning. You script your desires. You repeat affirmations. You meditate. You try to stay in alignment. You speak of high vibrations. You tell yourself you trust the universe. Yet when you look around, your reality feels painfully familiar. Different months, same emotions, new intentions, same outcomes. You wonder why, despite all this effort, the relationships you attract still resemble the ones you're trying to escape. Your financial situation resets. No matter how hard you push, your inner world swings between hope and quiet despair. And beneath all of this, one question grows louder. What am I doing wrong? Why does life feel like a loop I can't break? Here's the truth. It's not you. It's not your worth, not your potential, not your intelligence, not even your effort. It's your frequency. The quantum field doesn't respond to effort. It doesn't respond to how badly you want something. It doesn't reward hours of visualization, the intensity of affirmations, or the positivity you try to cultivate. The quantum field responds to one thing only, the signal you broadcast unconsciously, beneath everything you say and do. It's the vibration you embody when no one's looking, when you stop performing, when you're not trying to manifest. You're not stuck because you're failing at manifestation. You're stuck because you haven't stopped vibrating as the version of yourself you've already outgrown. Until that vibration dissolves, the field keeps reflecting it back to you, not out of cruelty, but out of coherence. The quantum field is neutral. It doesn't judge desires as good or bad. It mirrors the energetic reality you hold as true. This is why no matter how many vision boards you make, guided meditations you follow, or books you read, your life can still feel the same. It's not personal. It's physics. There's a law you weren't taught in school. The law of vibrational repetition. Whatever your subconscious mind believes is safe, it recreates. Not because it's aligned with your highest good, but because it's familiar. And the quantum field listens to that familiarity as a command. This is what you feel most often. This is what you expect. This is your stabilized reality. I'll keep reinforcing that, and so it does again and again. You don't manifest from your vision board. You manifest from your nervous system, from the energy you emit when you're not thinking about manifestation, from the way you react, process stress, handle disappointment, celebrate, or grieve. You manifest from the tone of your thoughts late at night, from the way you feel about yourself when things don't go as planned, from the energy you carry between your conscious efforts. This is why cycles repeat, because even when outer habits change rituals, the inner baseline stays untouched. You can say abundance 100 times a day, but if your body is still wired for scarcity, the field doesn't hear abundance. It hears lack, and it responds accordingly. Most people don't realize the field isn't punishing them. It's reflecting their core signal with perfect accuracy. But this isn't proof you're broken. It's not evidence you're unworthy. It's not even evidence that you're bad at manifesting is not what's happening. It's a mirror, precise, unflinching, vibrational mirror. And mirrors don't lie. They reflect. Instead of chasing a new reality with more techniques, tools, books, or courses, the real shift comes from becoming coherent enough for the field to reflect something different. The work isn't about adding more on top, but dissolving the old frequencies, looping like invisible code, running in the background of your life, dictating your experiences without your conscious consent. You can't out-affirm your energetic baseline. You can't manifest higher while anchored in the emotional patterns and vibrational habits of your past. You can't expand into your future self while gripping the same stories, self-perceptions, and frequency signatures that defined who you were. The loop continues, not because you're not trying hard enough, but because you're repeating the same vibrational signature. You're repeating the same morning routine, but with an undercurrent of fear. You're repeating the same mantras, but with residual You're taking new actions, but carrying old energetic postures. And the field reads that as your signal and reflects it with relentless consistency. This is the root of quantum repetition. The field isn't resisting your desires. It's reflecting your identity. An identity isn't what you say it is. It's what your frequency says. It is the sum total of what you expect, allow, tolerate, and settle into when nobody's watching. When the rituals end, and it's just you and your energy. If you want to stop repeating the same reality, you must stop repeating the same frequency. To do that, you must become exquisitely aware of what you've been unconsciously looping emotionally, mentally, and vibrationally. Until you interrupt that loop, you're not manifesting a new life. You're decorating the old one with prettier words, shinier tools, more sophisticated techniques. Here's the shift. Once you become aware of the loop once, you can name it, observe it, feel it, without collapsing into it. You can choose to step out of it. That's the essence of quantum shifting. Not forcing a new reality into being, but becoming a new frequency so the reality matching it collapses effortlessly around you. Your subconscious creates vibrational echoes that perpetuate the same experiences. Your mind resists change even when your soul craves it. The missing key to creating a new reality isn't effort, it's resonance. This isn't theory. It's transformation, deep, lasting, vibrationally real transformation. Your subconscious mind isn't designed to make you happy. It's designed to keep you safe. Safe doesn't mean fulfilled. Safe doesn't mean expanded. Safe means familiar. Your subconscious holds the sum of your experiences, beliefs, traumas, and emotional responses wired together through years, maybe lifetimes of reinforcement. These patterns create neural pathways, grooves of thought, feeling, and behavior that become automatic, unconscious. Your nervous system memorizes these pathways as default settings, how you respond to stress, experience love, handle money, perceive opportunities, or process rejection. All of these patterns form a vibrational blueprint your body emits even when your mind is focused elsewhere. The quantum field responds to that blueprint, not to your intentions, wishes, or words, but to the frequency you most consistently broadcast, your dominant vibrational signature. Most of that signature is unconscious, emitted from your body's automatic responses, habitual emotions, reflexive thoughts, and default self-perception. This is why change feels hard. When you try to manifest something new, you're often doing it from the same subconscious program that created the reality you're trying to escape. It's like writing a new story with the same old script running in the background, auto-correcting everything back to what it used to be. In the quantum model, reality exists as a field of infinite possibilities, potential reality, a wave of probability. But those probabilities don't collapse into physical form until there is observation, intention, and, most importantly, coherence. Coherence is the alignment of your energy across all levels, emotional, physical, and vibrational. Without coherence, your signal is scattered, weak, inconsistent, and a scattered signal cannot override a long-standing, deeply ingrained frequency. This is where most people get stuck. They try to force change from the level of conscious thought, unaware that their subconscious programming is still broadcasting the old signal at far greater amplitude. Neuroscience shows that up to 95% of our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are unconscious habitual patterns. Only 5% of your energy is actively creating something new, while 95% reinforces what already exists. This is why, despite your best efforts to think positively or stay in high vibration, you keep attracting the same relationships, financial challenges, health issues, or emotional experiences. Your subconscious mind is still wired for those patterns, and your body is still emitting the frequency of those experiences, creating a powerful magnetic field that draws in more of the same. In quantum terms, your observation, your conscious focus may be on your desired reality, but your vibration, your embodied frequency, is still entangled with the reality you're trying to leave. The quantum field responds not to what you want, but to what you are. And what you are is determined largely by the subconscious patterns you haven't yet interrupted. Make it practical. Think about the last time you tried to make a major change in your career, your relationships, your health, or your mindset. At first you felt excited, motivated, ready to take new actions. Then resistance crept in. Self-doubt surfaced. Old fears re-emerged. You procrastinated. You sabotaged yourself. You found reasons to delay. That wasn't random. That was your subconscious mind pulling you back into the familiar, into what it knows, into what feels safe even if it's painful. The body plays a crucial role here. Dr. Joe Dispenza says the body is the subconscious mind. Your body remembers the feelings, the stress responses, and the emotional habits that define your current identity. Every time you try to shift into a new state of being, your body resists not to harm you, but because it has been conditioned to keep you within the parameters of what it knows. The body craves predictability and generates thoughts, emotions, and impulses to pull you back into the loop. This is the mechanism of quantum repetition. Subconscious programming creates a consistent vibrational field. The quantum field mirrors that field back as reality. Your experiences reinforce the programming, creating an endless feedback loop until land. This is the key. You become aware of the loop, observe it without judgment, and deliberately introduce a new frequency into the system. You cannot brute force your way out. You can't overpower years of subconscious conditioning with a few minutes of visualization or affirmations taped to your mirror. This is why manifestation practices frustrate so many people. They're working at the surface while the true mechanism operates deep beneath. A quantum shift requires coherence, alignment of your conscious desires with your subconscious beliefs and your embodied emotional state. It means tuning your entire vibrational field to a new frequency, not just thinking new thoughts, but feeling new emotions, practicing new behaviors, embodying a new identity. Most people stop here, on the edge of transformation, still entangled with the frequency of their old self. But you don't have to stop. You don't have to keep looping through the same reality. You can learn to recognize the patterns, disentangle your energy from the familiar, and broadcast a new signal so coherently that the field reflects it back as a new experience. Feel the recognition in your body. You are not powerless in this process. You are the pattern, and you are the one who can change it. Now that you understand how the loop sustains itself through subconscious programming and vibrational frequency, we come to the precise moment where everything either changes or repeats. Most people miss this moment. because it doesn't announce itself with clarity. It doesn't arrive with a sign that says, you're about to break the cycle. Instead, it appears as frustration, confusion, or the subtle sense that nothing is moving. But here's the paradox. That sensation of stagnation, the rising tension just before you give up, is often the moment you are closest to a quantum shift, before any transformation. Resistance almost always surfaces, not because transformation is wrong, but because it requires energy to move from one vibrational state to another. It requires destabilizing the old identity before the new one can take root. That destabilization can feel like everything is falling apart, like nothing is working, like all your efforts are futile. In truth, what's happening is the old frequency dissolving while your mind, body, and energy recalibrate to hold something new. One of the clearest signs you're on the edge of a quantum shift is the recurrence of your oldest patterns with unexpected intensity. You may slip into old behaviors, attract familiar challenges, or feel emotional triggers you thought you had outgrown. This is not failure. It is a flare-up, the final expression of a frequency about to lose dominance. The subconscious does not relinquish control quietly. It tests your resolve. It tempts you back into the familiar. It presents you with chances to choose the old self again because that's all it knows how to do. This is why many people sabotage themselves just before a breakthrough, not because they are weak, but because they are unprepared for the emotional discomfort of leaving behind what feels safe, even when safe is painful. Another key sign: you begin to feel stretched, as if you're standing between two versions of yourself. One part longs for expansion, new possibilities, the life you've envisioned. The other part clings to the known, to the patterns that have defined you up until now. This internal tug-of-war is the hallmark of a quantum shift. It's uncomfortable, but it signals you are exactly where you need to be. At this point, most people choose one of two paths. They retreat, defaulting back to their old vibrational baseline, repeating the same reality again. Or they lean into the discomfort, recognizing it as proof they stand on the threshold of something profoundly different. That choice determines whether you loop or shift. There is often a physical marker at this stage. The body resists. You may feel fatigue, tension, anxiety, restlessness, or even mild illness. This is your nervous system processing the dissonance between your old identity and the new frequency you are beginning to inhabit. The body has been conditioned to the stress, limitations, and emotional habits of your previous reality. Moving beyond that conditioning requires adjustment to vibrational detox. Understand, this discomfort is not failure. It's evidence you're disrupting the loop. The system reacts not to punish you, but to preserve the old paradigm. If you interpret the discomfort as proof you're failing, you retreat. If you see it as part of the process, you persist and you shift. Make this practical. Imagine you're manifesting a new relationship, a new job, or financial abundance. You've been setting intentions, visualizing, aligning your actions. Then suddenly, an old fear arises. What if I'm not good enough? What if I get hurt again? What if it doesn't work? That fear triggers familiar behaviors. You pull back. You procrastinate. You lower your standards. You settle. The loop reactivates. But what if, in that moment, when the fear surfaced, you paused? What if you recognized fear not as truth, but as residue of your old frequency? What if, instead of collapsing into it, you breathed, regulated your nervous system, and stayed present with the discomfort? That is the moment of quantum shift, not when you force a new reality, But when you stop reacting to the old one, another sign of approaching a shift is synchronicity. Not just external signs, but the alignment of inner and outer realities. Recurring numbers, symbolic dreams, sudden opportunities, or instant manifestations of thought all point to your vibrational field becoming coherent with the reality you are calling in. These signs are invitations, not guarantees. The real test is your response. Will you trust the unfolding despite its unfamiliarity, or retreat into old patterns? The quantum shift demands that you remain in the liminal space long enough for the new frequency to stabilize. This is the hardest part. Faith without evidence, action without certainty, presence without guarantees. Yet, in that uncertainty, the field reorganizes. The old dissolves not because you force it, but because you stop feeding it with fear, attention, and habitual reaction. You create a vacuum, and the field fills it with coherence. If your patterns resurface, if your body resists, if synchronicities appear, if you feel stretched between who you've been and who you're becoming, understand this: you are not failing. You are shifting. So how do you shift now? Not in theory, not by force, not by pushing, not by fixing. In the quantum model, creation happens through frequency, not effort. Frequency is not something you do, is something you are. The future you desire already exists as a frequency. Shifting means tuning into it until it stabilizes. The process begins with the body. Most people try to shift mindset while ignoring physiology. But your body is the broadcasting tower of your energy. A dysregulated nervous system conditioned to fear, tension, or urgency will override any new thought. That is why you can know the right thing, say the right thing, and still remain stuck. The real shift occurs when your nervous system feels safe embodying new state space. Expansion, joy, abundance after years of normalizing anxiety. Contraction, scarcity, and doubt. Practice, close your eyes, and bring to mind the version of yourself already living the reality you desire. Don't focus on what they have, focus on how they feel. Calm, confident, grateful, radiant, anchored. Draw that emotional tone into your body. Not as pretense, not as trickery, but to train your nervous system to stabilize at that frequency. This is rehearsal, not performance. Repetition teaches your system to recognize the new state as safe. Do it slowly, gently, without force. Even 5 seconds of genuinely feeling different can interrupt the old loop. 5 seconds of coherence is more powerful than 5 hours of mental struggle. Second, observe without collapsing. Become aware of your old patterns without identifying with them. When an old fear surfaces, don't panic or repress it, watch it. When a reactive thought appears, pause, breathe, and ask, does this come from the version of me I'm leaving behind, or the one I'm stepping into? That moment of observation is the bridge. It's where your power lives. The more you can witness without collapsing into reaction, the more space you create for a new signal to emerge. Third, disengage from urgency. The quantum field is timeless. Desperation, franticness, or rush signals lack and disconnection. Even if the mind is visualizing the desired outcome, slow down. You don't need to chase what already exists. You need to become a match for it. Reality shifts not when you try harder, but when your frequency no longer supports the old. The energetic infrastructure of your current reality dissolves when it is no longer held together by your beliefs, behaviors, emotions, and self-concept. One powerful shift: stop asking for proof. Stop needing signs that it's working. Looking for proof too soon signals doubt. Instead, treat the lack of evidence as a test of your embodiment. Smile when it doesn't look like it's working. That's when you're starting to anchor a deeper frequency. Manifestation isn't about getting more. It's about removing interference, the noise, the tension, the urgency, the old expectations that bind you to what no longer fits. The more you remove, the more naturally the signal comes through. You don't have to build the new self from scratch. You only need to stop reinforcing the one you've outgrown. You are not becoming someone new. You're remembering who you already are beneath fear, doubt, and repetition. This shift is not linear. It won't always feel like progress. Sometimes it feels like stillness, sometimes like contraction. But if you stay coherent, if you keep returning to the signal of your future self again and again, the quantum field begins to respond in ways you could never force. The field doesn't respond to your timeline. It responds to your alignment. Alignment isn't a mindset. It's a vibrational home. The quantum shift isn't a one-time event. It's rarely a dramatic explosion. It's subtle, an accumulation of micro-decisions and micro-shifts. Tiny moments where you choose to observe instead of react, to soften instead of tense, to trust instead of panic. Each time you choose presence over programming, alignment over urgency, coherence over chaos, you're shifting. You're stepping out of the loop into infinite possibilities where new realities form not through effort but through resonance. Your future isn't something you chase. It's a frequency you stabilize in so consistently and confidently that the field organizes itself around your new signal. This is what it means to live as your quantum self, to recognize that you're not separate from the version of you who already inhabits the reality you desire. You're entangled with that version right now. The only question is which signal you're reinforcing with your thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and choices. The loop ends when you stop feeding it, when you stop rehearsing the same inner conversations, entertaining the same doubts, and repeating the same The shift happens when you allow old patterns to dissolve not through force, but through non-reaction, the power of non-resistance. And here's the most important part. You don't have to do this perfectly. The field doesn't require perfection, only consistency, only coherence, only the willingness to return again and again to the signal of your future self, even when your external reality hasn't caught up yet. Especially then. That is the true test, not whether you can shift when everything is easy, but whether you can hold your frequency when there is no evidence yet that anything is changing. Can you keep broadcasting the signal of abundance when your bank account still reflects scarcity? Can you stay aligned with love when your relationships still feel turbulent? Can you trust the shift when the loop is still visible in your external world? This is where most people give up. They interpret the lack of immediate results as proof that it's not working, that they're not good enough, that manifestation is a lie. But you know better now. You know the field responds to your embodied frequency, not your momentary frustration. You know the shift happens first in the invisible and only later in the visible. You know the reality you're stepping into doesn't need to be chased. It needs to be received. So now, as this journey closes, ask yourself, are you willing to keep broadcasting the new signal even when the old loop tries to pull you back? Are you willing to walk as the person who has already shifted, even before the world reflects it back to you? Because that is the only real question left. The practices, the theories, the techniques all point to this. Will you choose coherence over chaos? Will you choose resonance over reaction? Will you choose to stabilize in the frequency of your future self, not just as a practice, but as a way of being? If you will, you've already shifted more than you realize. The field is already responding. The new reality is already organizing itself around your new signal. It may take time for the pieces to rearrange, for the echoes of the old loop to fade, but the shift has already begun in you. Breathe that in. Let it settle. Let the knowing of your power deepen, not as an abstract idea, but as an embodied truth. You are not a victim of your reality. You are its creator. Always have been, always will be. The loop ends here. The shift begins now. Welcome to your new frequency,